Rick is such a credible person, so my ears kind of perked up when he talked about.
What did I say a few weeks ago? I was just like, Rick says a lot of things that a lot of us say. He just has a beard.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just another one of those.
I think it is.
Let's talk Uncle Rick. Now, Uncle Rick has popped up. Rick Rubin.
No, okay. Like Slick Rick. Who are you talking about?
The ruler will be Slick Rick. I call him the
Uncle
ruler.
Ricky. But I know you remember that.
Oh, for sure.
He could be Uncle Rick.
Rick Rubin. I'm fascinated with him for some reason because all of these comments, but he always seems to say something that's provocative or makes me think, or maybe it's just his vibe or his wisdom. I don't know, man. Or he's just one of them dudes that looks like he had Woodstock or whatever and got a whole bunch of...
It's the beard.
Maybe it's the beard, bro.
That's the only reason.
Maybe it's the 3 Stacks interview or whatever. But he had an interview where he talks about, well, not an interview based off this, but it was a comment that was pulled from an interview where he talks about hit records and how hit records are received from a fan standpoint.
Something and everybody likes it, chances are you haven't gone far enough. The best work divides the audience. The best work, people love it and people hate it. Otherwise, it doesn't have a strong enough charge. It's always been this case. It's always been the things that people are picketing are the same things that are the fans' favorite. If you make something and everybody likes it, chances are you haven't gone far enough.
Okay. Yeah. What do y'all think about that from a hit record, or just a product being your best product? Take hit records out of it. Just your best product overall. Does it have to be that polarizing in order for it to land? Because to me, that's what he's saying. Y'all correct me if you're wrong. Based off what you heard from him, it's got to be we're either over here, there is no gray area, or we're over here.
I think no, because there are certain songs, certain pieces of work. Like I don't think anybody can really get on television or whatever medium that you want to say and say, you know what's not good? Goodfellas. That movie sucks for these reasons.
I could probably.
I mean, you could probably, but you could do that with anything.
That's true.
Very good point.
That's true.
I mean, even if you say aren't a Prince fan, you can't be like, you know what really isn't good? Purple Rain. Not as a song, not as an album.
Right. I can't say that.
I don't. Sure. I think sometimes you can make a piece of art that is almost above criticism, unless you're just talking about people who hate or people who just aren't in a position to make a critical analysis of the said piece of art. Like, you could, if certain people say, if I presented them with Nas's Illmatic and they said, I don't like this, I was like, well, why don't you like it? I don't like it because it's not as good as my favorite Rolling Stones album. It's like, well, you shouldn't be comparing those two.
Yeah, it's like, what don't you like about the album?
Your experience, the things that you enjoy have nothing to do with this particular album. You're not going to like anything in this category. So like that's why I don't listen to everybody's opinion about hip hop. Like if you have there are certain people who can have an opinion about hip hop, and I'll listen to them and I'll be like, okay, you made a critical analysis of why this doesn't work, why this doesn't sound good, why this is actually like I heard of all people, and shout out to him because I'm just a fan of the content he creates. Bomani Jones.
Yeah, shout out to Bomani. I like him.
He talked about how Babyface is not a good writer. And he talked about how, like, when he tried to give Babyface, tried to give some certain songs to Anita Baker, she said no, and they wound up going to Toni Braxton and becoming the biggest songs that she had put out.
First of all, that comment is cap.
Because, when I think, okay, there are some songs where I can go back and critically listen and say, no, that's not that good. But then there's things that Babyface have done. I'll be like, he's done things that are way better than the average writer has been able to do. Is he Stevie Wonder? Absolutely not. But who is Stevie Wonder?
Thank you.
Other than Stevie Wonder, like you're talking about someone who had a genius period that is, as far as I'm concerned, has never been matched.
It's unmatched.
But, like at least he tried to make a critical comparison and a critical that I could at least, I actually respect his opinion enough to go back and say, okay, maybe he's right here, but by and large, he's wrong.
So are you, if I was to get a direct stance on what he said, are you against the concept of that record or your best work being that provocative? That's what I want to make sure I get you on record for that.
Sometimes a piece of art, whether it be a movie, a song, an entire album, a video game, a painting, like sometimes you just got to say, you know what, it was good. That's good enough for the audience it was intended for.
Right.
Sometimes you got to think about that. The audience it's intended for, they love it. 99, it's Rotten Tomatoes 99, whatever.
I got you.
And it makes sense. And the people who don't like it, it wasn't intended for, or they're just hating.
Talk to me, Lone. Is there any merit to that, or to what where Rick said?
There were two statements that he made. So he said essentially that if everybody likes something, then you haven't gone far enough.
As a creative
and as creating something. And that I agree with, because your reach isn't probably big enough if everybody agrees with something and you have not enough people. And I think we see that with our stuff too. Because sometimes when we put stuff out there that hits maybe, I don't know, 5 to 10,000 people, we can get everybody that agrees that they may agree with what we're saying. But everything that has, let's say, upwards of 20, 50, 100,000 views, all of that stuff is always very polarizing.
I agree.
Always.
I agree.
So from that aspect, I get it. But his second statement where he said something along the lines of the best work divides the audience.
Yeah, he used picketing as an example or something like that.
Yeah, that is where I would agree with what Jay, and I think that's what Jay is speaking towards. That I don't agree that the best work divides the audience. I just think that once you get enough eyes on something and enough people see something, you're going to find more outliers. But I don't think that I think that's kind of, I don't know, I think it's kind of true across the board, because even though, I don't know, to an extent, I think that no matter what, you're going to have people, if there's something in the world that everybody knows about, there are going, it's just by rule of whatever, there's going to be a percentage that doesn't like.
I'll give you an example, right? So on the surface level, what you're talking about, I agree with. But from an extreme standpoint, or if we're talking about, we'll just say high level artists, elite artists, I think what Rick is talking about, Kanye fits in that mold, because he usually is a person that gets an A or B response to me at this point. It's like, it's either going to be like, we'll never find this dude that we loved, or it's like, I like the new wave and he's evolved and the kids like it and we'll go from there. Like, I think Kanye is polarizing every time he drops. And I think that might be what some of the stuff that he's kind of alluding to, because that's the one person that popped up in my mind. Kanye is always either this or this, no matter what stage of his career that you choose from. It's always going to be, it's either we don't like him because of XYZ and it's trash, or we love Kanye. I don't know if he's a gray area artist per se. Do y'all feel what I'm saying or no?
I get what you're saying, but I don't think that is relatable, because then that would suggest that Kanye is making the best work.
And plus, his music doesn't exist in a vacuum. I know.
That's fair.
I know, because I'm just tired of the antics. I haven't listened to Kanye's new album.
Good point. Yeah, that's a good point, Lone. When you talk about the best, I give you that. You're right.
And it could be really great. It could be something that pleases my musical palate. Right. But between all the crazy things he said about, people of different religions, the things that he said about,
I'm just thinking about from a reactionary standpoint. He's always one of those people that it's extreme no matter what side it's on.
I think to what you're saying, that what you just said really kind of proves the opposite.
Okay.
In a way, because if Kanye can get that reaction, that polarizing reaction, no matter what he does, it doesn't speak to anything that he's doing. He's just a person that puts stuff out, and he's big enough, he's popular enough that it's going to have that reaction. I think what Rick is really speaking on is his popularity, realistically. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's really speaking about the merit of art. I think his second statement kind of contradicts his first statement. But, because again, I think there can be great art that 100 people like, and I think there can be great art that a million people like. And I think it's just popularity aspect. So I don't think it necessarily means that you're not pushing hard enough or breaking the mold or anything. Not everything has to be polarizing to be, quote unquote, your best. Yeah, your best piece of work. You know? Right. So that's just, I don't know. But, the first statement, I kind of agree with. But
yeah, I mean, it's the best part is one of those things where I think I can make something that I would qualify as some of my best work. And it just might be received a certain way. And if a lot of people like it, are you saying that's not my best work because it wasn't, as polarizing as what he described? So,
but again, we could also make the argument that To Pimp a Butterfly might be Kendrick's best album. And that is extremely polarizing. Some people really enjoy it and some people don't. But I don't think that, I think that's just happenstance in a way. I don't think that that's directly relating to his point, So I think that just happens to be the case in this particular thing because it is a jazz album, and a lot of people don't want to hear the jazz stuff.
And it's funny that you said
not jazz, but you know what I mean.
No, I know what you mean. And it's funny that you said that.
It's his bitches brew.
Yeah, it's out there, you know.
And I've had that conversation, and I always end up alone when I say that's probably my favorite record from him. But I also know I have roots in jazz, and I love jazz, so maybe there's a bias. But I also believe that it was executed to perfection, and it's not perfect, but you know what I mean when I say that. Not like the way that it was put together and its sequence and all that. I'm like, no, this is brilliant. This is brilliant work.
And I've come from the school of thought that not everything that is created that is spectacular in art has to be consumed at the rate that on a repetitive level.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, To Pimp a Butterfly is a great piece of art. Just because I don't go to it as much as Section 80 doesn't mean that it's not as good as a piece of art.
Bingo.
It just means that Section 80 is more, it's easier to go to listen to.
Right.
To Pimp a Butterfly is an amazing piece of art that maybe you only need to listen to one time.
Yeah.
You know?
Or
you don't need to consume it in the same way.
Or it could be, you know, it's the difference between like Kendrick had, like Damn. Mm-hmm. Damn might be the record that I can play when I'm cleaning my crib up.
Right.
It's definitely that album.
To Pimp a Butterfly is the record I put on when I'm driving in Chicago.
Or
you
when,
know what I'm saying? Or when I'm,
you want to think about something specific.
Yeah,
or,
but they both could be dope projects.
Yeah.
I think especially with To Pimp a Butterfly, that's the one where even somebody who considers himself a Kendrick fan, where there might be an argument over it.
Right.
Where it's like, you know, and you could make
Mr. Morale too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mr. Morale,
definitely
even more,
Mr. Morale. I know people that hate that record.
That's even more than To Pimp a Butterfly to me.
Yeah. I mean, because with either of those records, you know, there are people who could break down, and I would respect their opinion if they from an artistic standpoint of why they hate those records.
Right.
You know, as far as Good Kid, Mad City, if you're somebody that says I don't like this record.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough to make me want to fight you. I just don't understand how you do not like that record. That record, I think we talked about offline.
What'd you say, Long?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you say if you are someone who actually enjoys hip hop, quote unquote, and you said, you know what I didn't feel? Good Kid, Mad City. I was like, did you listen to it? Like, because you're almost telling me you didn't listen to it.
Do you actually like hip hop music?
You know, like,
have you followed Kendrick? Did you?
It almost tells me that you have bad taste in music.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, when you say
certain things that you say,
where it's just like, universal. Okay. I'm like,
okay,
sorry.
I don't need to listen to you anymore.
Yeah, like honestly, your opinion is null and void if you did not enjoy that album.
No, I think it just jumped out to me that,
and that album, to your point, to everything we're talking about, that album is not as polarizing as To Pimp a Butterfly,
not even
or
close.
Mr. Morale. But we would probably say that is his best piece of work, right?
Which one?
Good Kid, Mad City.
It's the one.
I mean, the most palatable to everybody.
If I talk to somebody who loves hip and they broke down why they didn't like Mr. Morale, I get it. I get it. Even To Pimp a Butterfly,
I get it.
But
too.
if you tried to give me a breakdown of why you didn't think Good Kid, Mad City was good, I'm sorry, but like, that's just because you need to go listen to Wilson Phillips or whatever weird. I don't even know what you like as far as music is.
If somebody has that as his best record, I won't get mad. I'm talking about to the Good Kid, Mad City. Yeah. If somebody's like, that's Kendrick's dope best project, I'll be like, all right.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that, it's just, it's not the most polarizing project that he's put out there. So to Rick's point, it contradicts what he's saying.
I see where you're going. I just thought because Rick is such a credible person, so my ears kind of perked up when he talked about.
What did I say a few weeks ago? I was just like, Rick says a lot of things that a lot of us say. He just has a beard. I mean,
it's just another one of those.
I think it is.
I mean, to a degree, like you listen to him talk, and it's kind of like, oh man, Rick Rubin's saying something, and it's not that he's not. There's definitely insight. There's definitely thought behind what he's saying, but kind of like sometimes you have to check yourself because you're like, okay, this is a guy with a beard, so I have to make sure that what he's saying is, you know
what Lone is telling me is, I think he's like, yo, like this topic, but I think you fell for the beard.
Not you specifically. Not you.
I think a lot of people.
I fall for the beard sometimes. I ain't gonna hold you because we come from the era where
and the shoes and
it's like you respect the other because we know you can go look it up what he's done. So it's like it hits a little different when he says certain stuff. But to your point, if he does his beard and it's off the wall, like it might.
And this is not to say that he's not thought provoking and he doesn't have great commentary and thoughts and stuff like that.
What he said caught my attention for sure. Yeah. Like the way he worded it. So, but no, we were able to at least discuss it. So shout out to Uncle Rick. You know, and maybe he'll have another bearded conversation that we use down the road, perhaps.
Yep.